Welcome back, everyone. Well, I knew it was going to happen. Back in high school, you know, I misbehaved a couple of times, and Mrs. Wilder, you know, she warned me. She said, "I'm going to track you down. Someday I'm going to find you." And lo and behold, Mrs. Wilder found me. You did find me, didn't you?
Yes, right in the dunce's corner where you belonged because you were bad.
Yeah, I was bad. No surprise there.
Nope, no.
So you may be wondering who my guest is. My guest is the Heritage Ambassador for Lake Luzerne Heritage District. And we're going to tell you all about this. Coincidentally, my wife and I were driving around last night, and we're going through Lake Luzerne, the folk school, and walking around this beautiful little hamlet that has an amazing sense of history. Well, Sue Wilder here is going to tell us about it. So welcome.
Thank you.
Very nice to have you. In your period costume, by the way.
Well, yes. Sometimes I portray a teacher at the one-room schoolhouse that is there in Lake Luzerne. Mm-hmm. We have 3 other buildings that we do try to encourage people to come to. Mm-hmm. One is the old part of the Rockwell Hotel Cottage. Mm-hmm. We have the Kinnear Museum of Local History, and we have the pulp mill, which has the first made pulp machine in the United States, right there in Lake Luzerne.
Now, I want to go back on each one of these. So, yeah, let me set it up for you. Lake Luzerne, beautiful little hamlet, very easy to get to, by the way, and situated right in the Adirondacks there with a wonderful history. Let's go through it. I want to start with the Rockwell Hotel. You know, so much of our history in this region really is about the late 1800s. And this is a perfect example of that, right?
I agree with you, yes. It was pretty much the turn of the century when the train started bringing the people to our area. And we built the big hotels. The Rockwell Hotel was actually the early 1800s, and it was built right there on the shore of the Hudson River above the Rockwell Falls.
Yes, right.
And it had 100 rooms. And can you imagine 100 rooms with no automatic washing machines?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it would be a little difficult, I think, to maintain a lifestyle there. But they did. They filled it. And then there were other larger hotels that were built in our area also.
You know, the Rockwell Falls, by the way, there's a bridge. What's the name of that bridge?
We call it the Bridge of Hope with the flags on it.
Yes, right.
And it was dedicated during Desert Storm.
Yes, that's right.
And we would put our yellow ribbons on it and the flags.
Right. So, yeah, I've seen that many times driving through there. Mm-hmm. And there's a place to park right near there, and you can get out and actually see the falls, which are spectacular. And you can imagine at the turn of the century this beautiful old hotel, you know, sitting perched right up there. Exactly. Well, part of the tour of the 5 stops is the last remaining cottage.
Correct.
Okay.
The Rockwell Hotel did venture out into making 4 cottages, and they put those along Main Street. One of them is the last remaining one that is there today. It did hit fire in 2002 when Papa's Ice Cream burned, but the front facade was saved, you know, just beautiful, and we have made it into a public building now. So it's our information center, it's our public bathrooms, it tells you, there's a little video in there that tells you all about Lake Luzerne. It's a neat little spot.
You know, another Kinnear, is a Kinnear House, correct?
Correct.
Good. That's kind of where the Historical Society is based now, isn't that correct?
It definitely is.
Okay.
That home was left to the Historical Society, and they've done a wonderful job at revamping the place, making it look like the turn of the century. The rooms are quite Victorian. There is one room that is designated as the Adirondack Room, and it tells about how the land was used in Hadley and Lake Luzerne from the time the land was granted to the soldiers from the Revolutionary War. And so it goes through showing how it was used for farming, it was used for logging, it was used for some of the commerce, some of the big hotels, and then it goes right into the dude ranches. It's a lovely room. Tells a lot of our history.
And there's the remaining smokestack from one of the leather factories.
Which is across the street from the Kinnear Museum. And it is actually a smokestack from the Garner Leather Works. And that's what kind of gave us our claim to fame here in Lake Luzerne, Jesse, was the leather. They made such fine leather that it was for bookbinding. And you'll still see some of that leather on the bindings of the books in the Library of Congress. It's kind of nice to know that we've got a little claim to fame.
And this is all, this, by the way, is all within walking distance. Now, I'll give you the website. It's townoflakeluzerne.org. LakeLuzerne.com, and you can find out all the information there. There are a couple of other stops on the way, and I hope we get time to talk about these. But you know what? You're fascinated because you have this wonderful sense of history. And you said something to me before we went on air. I said to Sue, I said, why do you do this? And she says, the love of keeping history alive.
Exactly. And it's so cool. Like when you're at the schoolhouse, you can actually sit in those chairs. The seats, the desk, they still have the inkwells in them. They're, I haven't counted the stars on the flag yet, but I almost think there's only like
40-something, 48 probably, right?
Maybe it's before then, I don't know.
You know what, I don't remember what it was like to sit in the chair because you always had me standing in the corner.
Well, that's why you're so tall. See, we did a good thing for you.
It's just my posture is so much better.
Exactly.
And another thing too, and I noticed I've interviewed different reenactors from different time periods, and you said something very fascinating about that too, that you get to be them, you get to live their life, right?
I get to step into their shoes for just a few moments, and you start to see, what was life really like in 1812, you know? What was, how hard it was to make a living, how that you had to have a garden and you relied so much on nature to make sure it was watered, and that you would have enough food to go through the winter, and you didn't have little families. And you couldn't run to the market. You had big families that you had to feed, and how are you going to do that? But the Rockwell Hotel, back to that for a moment, they actually had a farm designated, a 600-acre farm, and the produce there was designated for that hotel. And they were known for their excellent
fine dining. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, they'd have pheasant. They would have, of course, there's fish from the clean water of the Hudson, and it is clean above, you know, by us.
Above New York?
Yes, it is, above Albany.
I want to tell you, again, you can go to townoflakeluzerne.com. Now, each one of these stops has an ambassador there, including Sue, who will really walk you through, answer any of your questions. It's just a fascinating thing to do. It's every Thursday through Sunday between now and Columbus Day.
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
And they need volunteers, so if you love history, contact Sue about that. And also just, again, you hear me say this a lot, but, you know, take the family out. You know, go out there, bring the little ones out. Give them a sense of history. Once you fall in love with history, I know this personally, stays with you your whole life, right?
It does. You know, if you were to come to start at the visitor center and then do all 4 of the places and go up to the top of the hill, there's Lake Luzerne. So you get to put your feet in the water for a while, and maybe Maddie's there and you get a hot dog. The kids can play on the beach. It's really a nice community.
Well,
it
Sue,
really is.
Thank you so much for coming in and telling us about this. And you know, I did okay. You know.
Yeah, you did. You did graduate,
Did I make
which is
you
a
proud?
good thing. Yes, you did. And now that you got your own business, this is awesome.
So thank you so much for coming in. Again, it's like a 5-stop tour in the beautiful little hamlet of Lake Luzerne, the townoflakeluzerne.com. Thanks, Sue. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.